What's going on, everybody? I can't get this shit off.
Hola.
Ladies and gentlemen, live from New York. Anyway, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Talking to the Benfica podcast. Tonight's edition, episode number what is it? 168. We will have all your Super Cup coverage breaking down. With me tonight, Cristiano Oliveira.
Hola. Was that supposed to be your, what's his name? Johnny Carson?
Something like that.
Okay.
Cristiano Oliveira is with me. Steve Santos is not with us. He told me secretly that he's not coming on a pod until Benfica wins another game.
And it's just between us. No one else is supposed to know.
Right. So please don't say anything.
Yeah.
And on the other side of the Atlantic, you may know him as the Benfica voice, the play-by-play voice for Benfica games. You will be on this weekend for Estoril. Patrick Hendrick. What's going on, Patrick?
I'm very well, guys. I'm very well. Thank you for having me on once again.
Man, last time we saw Patrick, he was dancing around the Marquesa with a funny-looking umbrella.
No shorts.
No shirt.
No shirt. With shorts on.
I definitely had shorts on. Yeah. The shirt may have gone missing at one stage.
Yeah, but good times, and we're happy to have you back. I know that it's the start of the season. Patrick's actually going to have the lead commentary on this weekend's game, so we're looking forward to seeing that and to hearing Patrick. And definitely, it's going to be a strange mood. We were talking to Patrick a little bit off air about what he's going to experience. Of course, Patrick has been in Portugal and with Benfica for about a year, so he hasn't really experienced what is going on right now. And it's a little bit of, I don't want to say it's a crisis because it's not really a crisis, but it's a little bit of a letdown from what we had seen in previous seasons or even last season. So it's going to be an interesting season, to say the least. All right, Super Cup took place this last weekend at Estádio do Algarve against Sporting. Going into this game, a lot of talk by JJ. Patrick, I don't know if you had a chance to actually read some of JJ's comments or even listen to his pressers. But to be quite honest, JJ really set up the game on whether or not his team was going to win or lose. Mm-hmm. He was still going to come out smelling good, smelling like roses. What did you make of his pre-game little mental games?
Yeah, I didn't follow the press conference. Actually, I didn't watch it or listen to it, but I read the papers for the 3 days building up to the game. And I thought it was very clever. I don't know whether he organised that interview. I can't remember which national broadcast it was, whether it was RTP or something like that. I'm not sure which one it was, but thought that was clever. So he already got his say before the pre-match press conference even came around. And, we know he's got a huge ego. It was a clever way of destabilising Benfica whilst simultaneously galvanising Sporting, basically saying, I haven't seen any changes in for those that didn't follow it. I know everyone is very up to speed with what's gone on, but for those that didn't follow it, he basically said that he hadn't noticed any change in the way Benfica had played in pre-season, that it was still his side, albeit it had lost the brains of the operation, which he didn't actually expressly say was him, but it was fairly thinly veiled and obviously implied, which I thought was quite disparaging towards Rui Vitoria, to be honest, who then came out and his response was to not respond, which on the one hand is very classy. On the other hand, I'm not sure whether the Benfica fans would have wanted him to come back with that. I noticed there were two very different approaches taken here. Sporting came out, instantly qualified JJ's comments by saying, we don't think he said anything wrong. We don't think these comments were disrespectful, almost anticipating a reaction from Benfica, which never came. Benfica let it pass, which was good, but ultimately the way the game goes, you tend, with the benefit of hindsight, to look back and think, was that the right approach? I think Rui Vitoria said, I'm not going to respond. Well, no, he said, I'll answer who I want when I want, which I thought was a good answer. Unfortunately, he did answer JJ, and he answered it by changing his team. And he changed the formation. So actually JJ got to him with those comments, and that's why we suddenly saw a 4-2-3-1 out of nowhere when it had been, from what I understand, 4-4-2 throughout pre-season, which was what Jesus was referring to in the first place.
Right.
And it was in that press conference that Sporting won that game. That's where JJ won the game. He came out, he's talking his slick trash, and it worked.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like him, and he might be classless. And I mean, I don't like half the stuff he does. You know, you guys obviously not defending the guy as far as on the field because I think he's a tremendous coach. But he won the game right there. And you look at some of the greatest coaches in any sport, Phil Jackson in basketball, they play these mind games. Mourinho, Ferguson, these guys play mind games. And if you're not used to that game, you can't get yourself to that level, you're going to lose the game. And that's exactly what Vitoria did. He could come out and say, I don't want to answer, whatever. But like Patrick said, he did answer. He changed everything around because he's like, oh, vou-te mostrar. I'm going to show you that, you know what? We don't, it's not your system. It's not you. But to me, it was a bad job on his part.
I thought it was curious that JJ said himself, if Benfica had won, he would have said, well, it's my team. It's the way I set it up. But like you said, Patrick, I think that Vitoria maybe succumbed a little bit to some of the pressure that he had felt and went with the different system, which is a system that's more similar to what he played at Vitoria. Actually, very similar system to what he played at Vitoria. But I can't even say that he changed the system because he didn't have the personnel, because he did have a second forward available to him. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what the idea was behind it. I don't know if he just wanted to make sure that he controlled Sporting's midfield right off the bat. I'm not really sure what the intentions were. But to me, even though I expressed before the game that it probably would have been a good setup to go with Faison Samaris and go with the creative guy on top of them, a guy such as Pizzi, I think that the bet on Talisca was the wrong choice. And I think that's where the game started getting away from them. That's where Benfica or Sporting had the majority of the play, because Talisca, he just didn't show up. He just wasn't there.
They lost. Listen, bro, like I said, Benfica lost the game in the dressing room. JJ knew what he was going to do. He came out. Everyone knows what JJ is going to do. And he was like, you know what? Come out and beat me. This guy, Vitoria, changed the lineup just so he, if Benfica were to win, he could say, you know what, JJ, look, I did things my way. He didn't want JJ to glow. But you know what? Right now, being the first game of the year, the first official game of the year, JJ's going to take a little bit of credit because the majority of the team is still JJ's players, the system. I mean, I think you got to get over that, man. I think the objective here is to win the game. And if it just so happens with last year's tactics, so what? Last year's tactics won you the championship. So they're obviously good enough. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think he tried to reinvent the wheel here, and that's where he lost the game. He lost the game with the mind game battles between JJ, in the press, and 9 out of 10 times or 10 out of 10 times, JJ's going to win those battles in Portugal. And to me, it was a bad job.
Yeah. Patrick, just the game in general, very timid start by Benfica with Sporting just coming out firing. And again, they got JJ behind them. They think they're invincible with this guy now. So that plays a lot into the psyche of the Sporting players. But Benfica, very timid. Perhaps it wasn't until the 30th minute until Benfica started even things out a little bit more. And again, no possession in the midfield whatsoever, no flow in their game, no passing. Just a poor start of the game for Benfica. And I expected a lot more from a team that's I know that they've had their struggles in the early season, but a team that's a champion, you got to enter the game as a champion with that attitude.
Yeah, you do. And I saw a lot of nervousness to begin with from Benfica, and I think that perhaps the preseason form was weighing on their mind. The players aren't immune to what's being written in the media and what's being said about them. They know that they played 5 games in preseason, they didn't win a game. They knew that suddenly the pressure was on them because, they are the champions. They're playing against Jesus. They'll have read his comments as well. They'll know that, suddenly they'll start to wonder that themselves. If he's saying, oh, the team's the same, albeit they've lost me, then, there will be some self-doubt creeping in there. And I think one of the main problems was from last season's back four, only Jardel played. Luizão wasn't fit from what I understand. I'm not sure why Eliseu didn't play and why Silvio was preferred to him. And then obviously Maxi Pereira has left, and Nelson Semedo, who from all accounts from you guys telling me had a good game in New York. I think he played reasonably well for a young guy, but it's a big game to come into. And so suddenly you've got 3/4 of the back four that are new. And I mean, Julio Cesar had a fantastic game, I thought.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only way that Sporting were going to score, either through a bit of brilliance or a bit of good fortune. And, typical as a scuffed, deflected shot. I mean, obviously there was the wrongly disallowed goal, but Julio Cesar thankfully had a very good game, because it could have been worse. But there just wasn't much cohesion through the side. I thought the midfield was disjointed with Feza and Samaris, and I think Pizzi was a big miss as well. I really liked the system last season. It was a 4-4-2, but it was a slight variation on that, and with Pizzi slightly further forward and Samaris, and they're both very good on the ball. And obviously you're going to miss Salvio. I mean, if we take the side that won the title last season, you're missing at least one key player from every area of the pitch. You're missing Lima, who got you 20 goals in the league last season. You're missing Salvio. You're missing Max Pereira. You're missing the captain as well. Yeah. So there's several absentees. So I think those are mitigating circumstances, and it shouldn't be all doom and gloom, because when Luisao is back, Salvio, okay, we have to wait a while for him. And I do agree with Chris. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, because there's actually. I covered a lot of Italian football in the past, and I can see a lot of parallels with this situation, with the situation that Juventus faced last season. They had Antonio Conte there 3 years. He'd won 3 titles in a row. He left the club. Allegri came in, very unpopular appointment. This is different, because Rui Vitoria's appointment was at least greeted with some optimism by Benfica fans. He'd worked his way up. He'd earned his chance. But there, Allegri was very unpopular, so had everything to choose. And he was damned if he did and damned if he didn't, because had he completely changed Conte's system and not got results, then that was a risk. Had he kept the same system, it was still Conte's team winning on autopilot, much like Jesus was saying here. But ultimately, he did change the system, and he went on to improve upon what they'd done. They won the double, and they got to the Champions League final. Now, the difference there that I see is that Juventus had no real challengers in Italy last season. Milan were poor, Inter were poor, Roma were worse than they were the year before, and they were the only challengers, and they fell away with 3 or 4 months of the season to go. The difference now that I see is Porto was strong last season, albeit it was Lopetegui's first season, and they've got stronger, they've strengthened. And Sporting have strengthened, not only in the dugout with Jesus, who they've taken from Benfica, but also in the playing staff. So I think if you are going to change the system, you need to make sure you give yourself enough time to do that, and you're at a club that has the patience. And I know Luis Felipe Vieira is very well known for his patience. So if he is going to change the system and they are to see the long-term benefits, then everyone at the club, the players, the supporters, etc., need to be patient with him. And maybe there might be some results at the start of the season that don't go well. But that is if he's clear in his mind that he wants to change the system and he knows exactly what he wants to do.
All very good points, all valid points. But the major difference here between Vitoria and Allegri is Maximiliano Allegri had a history at a big club. We've never seen Rui Vitoria at a big club, and Maximiliano was, he had a little bit of success with AC Milan. We have not seen Rui Vitoria at a big club, and that's the thing. Even though a lot of people, because whatever, people weren't excited about Allegri, but in the end, this is a guy with big game experience, a guy that was used to handling stars, a guy that's been under pressure, that's been under the limelight. I have not seen that from Rui Vitoria. And now when, I don't want to call it controversy, but when JJ kind of throws out the challenge, he buckled under pressure in the first game. And so to me, those are worrying things. I know, you meant, like I said, all valid points. You're missing players and this and that. But to me, it's just not enough. I haven't seen nothing. I mean, with the exception of the first half, and I think Steve's mentioned this 50 times, with the exception of the first half against Paris Saint-Germain in Toronto, which let's not forget, played against a bunch of 18-year-olds. Benfica actually looked like they had an idea, they had a game plan.
It was all this. It was the exact same team that finished the year, minus Salvio.
That's fine.
That played that game. So that what does that tell you?
That he's a dumbass for changing the lineup. That he couldn't face. Like I said, JJ threw it out there and mind games, and he fell for it. And so to me, that doesn't give me a lot of how do I put it? I'm not. I don't know. I forget the word, but it doesn't give me a lot.
We're not. I'm not making any excuses for the team or for the team's performance this past game. And we all know what went on in preseason. We already discussed that. That's done and over. But I think, Chris, that a big miss for us was Luizão in the back. I think he could have been a settling presence in the back. He's also a guy that's often the voice of the coach. We've heard read stories about him being the guy that was the voice of JJ's inside the field, that he knew the system, he knew how it would work, he knew how to tell players to fill certain spaces. And I think that his miss from the Super Cup was a huge miss.
It is. Anytime any team is missing their captain, that's going to be a huge miss. Yep. But let's be realistic. Lisandro Lopez didn't play terrible. Benfica didn't lose the game because Luizão didn't play. Benfica looked like lackluster. They didn't have any imagination. Yeah. You couldn't tell what the hell they're playing. So, I mean, in the goal that they scored, it wasn't really a defensive error. It was a deflection. So, I mean, who's to say that if Luizão was that doesn't happen? You know, you can't really say that they played that bad and that's why they lost the game. Benfica, to me, looked like they were out of ideas. The coaching staff hasn't been able to implement a system. They keep switching it back and forth. Everyone and their mother could have told you that Jonas, as good as he was in Portugal, he's not the same player up top alone. Same thing with Lima. We said that with Lima for years. Lima was terrific when he's playing alongside Rodrigo. All of a sudden, Lima's playing by himself. Jonas wasn't in the lineup yet, and Lima's looking like crap. Jonas gets into the line. All of a sudden, Lima's scoring and Jonas is scoring. Yeah. Those two guys can't play as the lone nines. Yeah. And so, I mean, if I could tell that from my living room couch in the United States of America, and you're a coach, and you're supposed to know these things, and you can't tell this on your own, I mean, come on, bro, you're doing a bad job.
Yeah. The other thing is, the other thing on a left back situation, I mean, you went from having Eliseu as the starter. Now all of a sudden, Eliseu does. I don't know if he was affected or not, but Eliseu doesn't count. Never mind Marçal. Marçal was supposed to be number 2. Now Marçal is number 3, and we already discussed Marçal.
Marçal, it's another one of these. And Patrick, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because I never understand half of these signings that these clubs make. They sign the player or whatever, buy the player before ever bringing in a coach. We don't even know if the player fits into the coach, if the coach wants him on the team. So to me, Marçal is a guy that's on the outside. Now, you hear all these reports regarding Coentrão. I think that if they are true, Coentrão comes in, or even the kid Grimaldi, whatever, from Barcelona, if either one of those guys finds a way onto this Benfica squad, I think Marçal out, and I think even Papo will be on his way out because, one, he's got a high salary. I'm pretty sure higher than Silvio's even. And 2, Silvio can't be out because Benfica already have an agreement for the loan for the rest of the year. And it seems to me that the history that he's had with Vitoria, it seems to be winning right now. So if Benfica are able to bring in another left back, I think Marçal and Eliseu are both out the door.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what happens. The other thing is I think that Vitoria is fighting very hard with the idea of not wanting to leave either Samaris or Face on the bench, and I think that was another confusion. But Patrick, I think that right now the biggest challenge that Benfica is facing currently is an identity crisis, where they're not really last year's team, and they're not a pure Vitoria team. So right now they're trying to find themselves, and right now they're running out of time. And 2-3 games into the season, they lose points. I don't see Porto losing a lot of points this year because they have a very stingy defense, and Sporting is probably going to be very good defensively. So not the best time to be having an identity crisis, Patrick.
No, not at all. And I think it will take time because, as we said, they are missing some key players. And I completely agree with Chris on the Lima thing. I think Lima perhaps didn't get as much credit as he deserved. Last season, the best thing about Lima was that you knew that he would play as a pure 9. He would stand on the last line, occupy the 2 central defenders, and that's what made Jonas so good because he could drop deep and he could operate in the space. Suddenly, Jonas was isolated up there, and ironically, actually had two headed chances which he missed, which Lima would have buried both of them. So anyway, we can't just spend all evening complaining about the players that have gone that aren't here. Lima's gone. The club may or may not decide to replace him. Is Mitroglou the right person to replace him? We'll see. I think it was always going to be hard for him in 20 minutes to come on in that game, having trained twice with the team to do it.
That was also another terrible move.
That was terrible.
Another terrible move.
Benfica hasn't done something like that in years.
I mean, what confidence? Confidence does the other kid or Jonathan? Yeah. I mean, think about that. I've been with you all. This guy shows up 24 hours ago. He's getting playing time before I do.
Yeah,
it's motivational. I'm telling you, it motivates him a lot.
It does make me wonder about Jonathan's attitude because that's 2 coaches in a row now that haven't fancied him. I mean, he was when he came in January, lots of people are saying, well, are we going to see some of this kid? And he was with the B team most of the time, and just a couple of appearances on the bench. And so Jesus clearly didn't fancy him, and now Vitoria doesn't seem that keen on him either, which is bizarre, really, because you thought once Lima had left, they had a plan for him, but clearly it's not the case. And now I saw they're linked with this Jimenez as well.
Did he arrive in Portugal?
I think that's going to be announced, probably formally and officially announced tomorrow, that Jimenez is going to sign.
You know what I hate? Hey, Patrick, I know I'm kind of like whatever going the other way, but real quick, I think that FIFA needs to put it, or UEFA needs to put a rule that once the season starts, you can no longer buy players. Because I think that Benfica still going through that. Should we buy? Should we not buy? Before you know, you dropped 8 points. And there goes the cheat. I think that, like, July 31st, that's it. No more buying players. I think they need to do something like that, because this is absurd. No. You got Gaetan playing a very meaningful game for Benfica, which a game, years prior was João Barlinhos. But he could be on his way out right now. I mean, that makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, and I know it's something Jose Mourinho's criticised as well a lot. He says that he doesn't like to buy players once the season started. But looking ahead to this weekend, I think where possible they need to switch back to the 4-4-2. I think you need to go with Samaris and Pizzi. They played all of last season together in that central midfield. Then with Gaetan on the left, then you've got 3/4 of the midfield, which was a very strong area of the pitch. But Benfica was strong all over the park last season. Okay, you're going to miss Salvio. Ola John, I didn't think covered himself in glory on Sunday night. So maybe Carcela, I don't know. I haven't seen too much of him.
Carcela's hurt.
Okay, Carcela's hurt. There you go. So you need to see who's going to play up front with Jonas. I don't think he can play up front on his own. If he is going to play up front on his own, I think you need 2 players that are going to get forward and support him as much as possible. Yeah. But I think they need to. They're at a bit of a crossroads here tactically. The option is either to stay with the 4-4-2 and have the personnel to go with that, or change the system and then back the coach and say, okay, you want to play 4-2-3-1. We don't have the right players who are suited to that system at the moment. You give us a short list of players and we'll bring in the players. This will be the last time I refer to Sporting, because we're not here to talk about Sporting, but that was the last game. They hired a new coach and they backed him in the transfer market. And Sporting have changed transfer approach a lot. I've been reading a lot in the media about had they given the players to Marco Silva to do this, then he would have had more success, etc. But clearly Jesus has the strength of mind and the character to demand the players and get what he wants. Now, I don't know what the club's policy is at the moment on. There's been a lot of sales, and the players that have come in have been on limited fees. So it depends I don't know whether it's a case of we're going to buy, when we see a good deal come up, we're going to buy someone, or if it's a case of these are targeted signings. We want this player to play here. We have this system in mind. This player is leaving. That player is going to come in. This is how we're going to play. So we won't know a lot of that until we see them play in what I think is a proper competitive game. That was a competitive game, but let's be honest, it's the Super Cup. Now, you guys know a lot more about Portuguese football than me. I'm still new to it, but the National Super Cup in most countries doesn't mean a hell of a lot, to be honest.
It didn't. It just mattered because it was against JJ and Sporting. Yeah. But see, that being said, you tell me Benfica comes out and they look great against Estoril. I mean, to me, it's not going to give me any confidence, bro. I mean, it's got to be a stepping stone. You're expected. I mean, Benfica. I mean, defending champions. You should beat Estoril. Now, I'm looking for, like I said, I didn't have any confidence throughout the whole, after what I've seen throughout the whole preseason. Now you go into a very competitive game. JJ was right. Benfica came out. They were shook at the beginning of the game. You could tell that all BS had gotten to them. And so now if they go out and they slap, Estoril around, is that really like, okay, all right, the ship's been righted?
No, the ship is not going to be righted if they beat Estoril. But what I'm going to be looking for a beginning of a consistent game model from them.
I think it'll be more than one game. I think I need to. I mean,
it's going to be more, but this is going to be the starting step where you're going to have to notice, as slightest and small as it may be, you're going to need to see some kind of a little bit of consistency, a little bit of a slight turn in a ship. Not that it's going to right itself up just in one game, but it's going to be like a consistency thing, and it's going to take time to get there. But I can't have another shitty performance against Turil. That's the fans need more than that.
Agree.
So
I mean, you know how I feel about that. I mean, I think the fans right now, like you said at the beginning of the pod, it's not a crisis.
No.
But I think the fans are right to be preoccupied at the moment.
I think that's the right word.
Preoccupied. I think the red flags might be going up. You're alert to the situation. And, like we talked about last week, I can't let this go 3-4 games into the season. I just can't, because then Benfica, it's a lost season. Forget about it.
I think that right now, you go back to what you had last season, you tweak it a little bit. You definitely need certain guys to certain positions. Up front, Jonas can't play alone. The Gaitan thing, who knows? I agree with you guys that, having the market open while the season starts is unsettling for these teams that they're big players, or actually the little teams that big players are all waiting to get bought. It's unsettling for the teams, and the team can't really start really going at the season when they have that doubt. Well, maybe this guy's gonna go, maybe this guy's not gonna go.
Look at the crap at Man United with the game.
Yeah. And then Benfica is also probably looking at a list of guys that are gonna not be needed by big clubs such as Real Madrid or whatever they've done before. They've gone to Real Madrid and they've gotten guys that didn't count for them once they go through the squad and eliminate certain guys. So I don't know if Benfica is waiting for that, but I think that there's no question about it. Patrick, we need to go to the market. There's no question.
Yeah, I do think there are holes in the squad, and there's some areas that need to be covered. And I definitely think up front, nominally now there's 4 of them, 4 forwards. You've got Jonas, you've got Mitroglou, you've got Jimenez if he signs tomorrow, and you've got Jonathan Rodriguez. And Jonathan Rodriguez, Nelson as well.
Oh, you did. I'm sorry.
And Jonathan Rodriguez comes with a big reputation. He's very highly thought of in Uruguay. He was in the Copa America squad. Yeah. He's clearly got ability. So I'm wondering what it is, and he scored goals for the B team. So I'm wondering what it is that means he's not ready for first team football.
Yeah,
Patrick, I said it here multiple times. I don't think he has the feet to finish in front of goal. I think that's why, because the guy has all the tools. He's fat. And then again, he's not exactly the biggest. He's not the big. From what I've seen up close and personal, he doesn't have the feet to be that killer. There's one thing with Lima. He can finish with both feet, and Lima's a finisher. I mean, he shanked a lot, but Lima's a finisher. I don't think they have confidence in his feet. That's based on what I've seen.
Yeah, he lacks that cynical
finesse. He doesn't have the
cynical approach, that ice in your veins approach, and mood in front of goal. Jonathan, he still shakes a lot. He still needs to learn a lot. I mean, the guy's physical.
I don't think it's ice in his veins. The guy, like Patrick said, he's been on the national team. This guy's been. I just don't think he has that skill set.
He's still young.
That's fine. If you don't have it at this time, you're not going to get it.
I think,
I think that's something you develop.
I think if they are going to play a similar system up front with the front two like they did last season, then I think they're going to go with the target man model again. Someone who will stay up there, someone who will hold the ball up, someone who's good in the air. Okay, Lima, there's a bit more to his game than that, but that seems to be the profile of player that they have in Mitroglou. Time will tell. I mean,
I don't know.
Where's he come from? He's come from Fulham. Fulham got relegated.
Scored 20 goals in the championship.
You scored 20 goals?
I think he scored 20 goals last year in the championship, from what I read.
But Fulham was in the championship last season?
Yeah, I think so. They were second. Yeah.
So it's not a sign that blows you away.
I think Jimenez will be the striker.
I never seen that guy play.
But I think if he comes in, he's going to be where I think Mitroglou has a chance of playing? If Gaitan leaves, he'll play on the left.
You think so?
I think there's a chance. Yes.
Okay.
That's just me.
I think that I don't know if Mitroglou is that quick, but I don't think Benfica need that if they're going to have people like very mobile people out wide. Gaitan, Salvio. I mean, Salvio is such a big miss. I think really, really missed him the other day, just because then you have a threat from both sides. I think Sporting knew the other night that they could isolate Gaitan, and they doubled up on him every time. They fouled him in certain areas of the pitch where they weren't going to get yellow cards. Eventually, the referee caught on and started giving them yellow cards.
Yeah, and he got frustrated himself.
There was no threat on the other side, Ola John. And so we'll see. But I think there needs to be signings made. I don't see a lot to improve upon in the defence. Maybe a right back, more experienced right back. Then we're going to see who they're going to play. If it's going to be Semedo, Andre Almeida didn't play, so that makes you think that he's still going to be back up. I would play Eliseo when fit. I think I like him. I know Chris has got his issues with him, but I don't see.
I got no issues. I love him. I'm the only one that defends him. I defend him all the time.
Our man Pop Sick.
I think in Europe he might be found wanting, and he does tend to charge forward, and he's exposed by that diagonal ball. But Luizão and Jardel know that, and typically one of them covers across, or someone like Samaris will drop in, and that worked last season, and he did offer a lot. So I would think that I would be surprised if he's not starting on Sunday. Eliseo, I have to say, if he's fit, then I think he has to start. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, it's not all doom and gloom. What is it? 51 games unbeaten in the league at home. So let's keep that in mind. That run needs to last as long as possible.
It's not all doom and gloom, but I mean, again, and I know some people being critical of me on Twitter, but listen, I call it how I see it. When there's stuff to be, confident and optimistic about, I am. But right now, the signings, I defended Terep. The guy, he's not even on the roster. They don't even put him on the roster because my man's fat. Carcella, he's got a beautiful left touch, but doesn't do nothing with it. I mean, so much so that now they're saying he's injured. Whatever. That's the reason. It's another reason for not calling him up. It seems that all the buttons that they pressed so far in this offseason
have been the wrong buttons.
I mean, listen, Smithu is going to play. Yeah. I really do think, not just because I like him, but I think he's going to play, Patrick, because for the last 6 months, Seychelles. They've been talking about, we're going to have 4 kids. And so I think that'll be their one chance to say, look, there's a kid playing, because the other guys aren't going to play.
He's going to be the poster boy.
Yeah, he's going to be the one guy. And that's really the position that they need. They need him at that position. So I think he will play because of that reason.
He's going to be the poster boy for the Seychelles. But one last thing before we move on. The incident at the end of the game where JJ was up to his own antics, and apparently Jonas didn't like that too much, and asked for the players to be respected.
No, he went to the bus and said that.
No, that was on the field, and then after he went to the Sporting bus, did the same thing to JJ, hit him upside the head, like a little thing upside the head, and told him, respect Benfica players. So to me, JJ in his press conference before the game said, I don't think Benfica players were offended. They're professionals. I've been with them this bunch of years. I know that they're not offended. But apparently it touched the nerve. It touched the nerve that he played down the talent of the players, of the Benfica players. Patrick, thoughts on that?
Well, he's very good at what he does. Unfortunately, you can like it or loathe it, but he was there to get a result, and he got the result. And unfortunately, football is about winning, and some people are very cynical. There should be more sentiment in football, but sadly there isn't. And you'd like to think that having been there for 6 years and having just won the league title with those players, there would still be a bond. But I think he knew that once he left the club and once he joined Sporting directly, then it was very difficult for him to maintain any he couldn't have one foot in each camp. He had to go all or nothing. And I think that he just thought, okay, well, I'm not going to only try and destabilize the new coach and the club, who are my main rivals, and vindicate my decision to move across. I'm also going to try and, because it's the players that go out there and play. So if he's able to do all of that in one press conference, you have to admire that. I don't agree with it morally, but it's very effective. I mean, the one thing I've noticed, I'm drawing a lot of parallels with other leagues, but that's my background
from your experience.
But what I noticed is that I read in the paper yesterday, or maybe it was this morning, I'm not sure, but that Rui Vitoria towed the party line. He's very good. He didn't complain about going to the US for the tour. He didn't complain about Maxi leaving, about Lima being sold. He's been very, straightforward about that. Very classy. It's been a very classy approach. Then you contrast, you could draw parallels with Arsene Wenger and that. Then you contrast that with Jesus, who's been anything but classy in the way he criticised his old club and the way he's basically disrespected his successor, which is I see a lot of parallels between Jesus and Mourinho. I really do in the manipulation of the media And look at this past weekend.
Yeah.
He's just come out and criticised his club doctor. He's going to win the day because he's the manager. She's no longer going to be on the bench.
He banned her from anything with the first team.
It leaves a bad taste. But what's the common denominator? They're serial winners. And Wenger is often derided for not winning. I'm not saying this is the case with Rui Vitoria at all. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that sometimes, as a fan, if you are at a club that's used to winning and that demands success, if you are in that top job, sometimes you need to say, okay, it's great to go to the US for our image. It's great to go there for the prestige of the club. The history demands it, etc. But if you are hiring me and my job is on the pitch matters and I have to win games, I'm going to say to you, this is not the best way to win games. And I do think these US tours take it out. Van Gaal, exactly the same last year. He didn't win anything, and I don't rate Van Gaal particularly. That's for another day. But Van Gaal came out and criticised United's US tour. Now, I'm just saying that all these time zones and all this travelling doesn't make for the best pre-season preparation, in my mind.
Yeah.
So I think fair play to Vitoria, because there's not one way of doing things. And it's not to say because it works for Mourinho and Jesus, it's going to work for him and everyone has to be like that and you should come out criticising your employers. Actually, I agree more with Vitoria's approach. The difference is he has to back it up now with results.
It's all about wins. Wins trump everything. And that's what it's about. And JJ could be an a-hole. Mourinho's one of the biggest a-hole. On camera, off camera, he's actually pretty decent. But you know what they do? They put up W's. And at the end of the day, when you're at a Chelsea, you have an ownership, you have a single owner. All he cares about is wins. When you have the sausages like Benfica, to them, all that matters is wins. A lot of us couldn't stand JJ because of his ass. All of us could tell you that the guy was classless at times. But you know what? We put up with his ass because we got titles. Now, to me, you give me an a-hole or a real sweetheart like Rui Vitoria, Benfica finishes in third. Bring me back that a-hole, because at the end of the day, that's all I care about. And that's why I get, all these talks I've given you guys about the modalidades, whatever. To me, all I care about is the Benfica soccer club, the first division team. It's all I care about. If they win, I don't care what anybody else does. So if it's an a-hole that leads that ship and he's getting me the title, bring it on. I really don't care about these guys' attitudes.
But please don't misunderstand me, guys. I'm not saying at all that it's this black and white. I'm not saying that because of his approach here that means that Benfica aren't going to win the league this season and Vitoria is not going to be a success. No, I'm just saying that as his sort of opening night, if you will, it could have gone better, which I think he would recognise himself. So I'm interested to see what he'll say in the press comments building up to this game. And I think that'll be interesting, and hopefully Benfica will go out and score 2 goals in the first 2 minutes against Estoril, and everyone will forget the Super Cup. Yeah,
let's not forget that if Sporting doesn't score that fortuitous goal, we're probably having a different conversation tonight. But it is what it is. It's behind us now, and that's it. Now we're looking forward to Estoril. But before we get into the Estoril game, we're gonna take a break here for the halftime headlines. All right, see you in a bit.
And now, the halftime headlines.
This week, we kick off by looking at a now former Benfiquista that's been on the outside looking in as of recent. Ruben Amorim, the 30-year-old midfielder, has left Benfica on terms to go play for the Qatari team, Al Wakra. A deal has been made through the team's official Twitter page, and we wish him the best in his new sandy adventure. Mexican forward Raul Jimenez seems to be on his way to Lisbon to sign for Benfica. The 24-year-old from Tejepi looks eager to get some first-team football. He'll be fighting against Jonas and Mitroglou for one of the 2 center forward spots in the starting 11. Coincidentally, this may very well mean that Jonathan Beer Can Rodriguez may be getting less minutes and less experience. He very well may have to look for it elsewhere in the league. And finally, Rafael Guzu, one of Benfica's A and B team floaters, has been officially loaned to Clube Desportivo Tondela for the remainder of the year. There's a great chance he slots immediately into the main team, along with Benfica teammates Jean Murillo and Romario Balde. Good luck to all of the loanies there. And that's all for this week.
All right, there you go.
Another very entertaining halftime show.
Yeah, as usual.
From
Nelson's on it.
Nelson.
I thought that Jimenez had been confirmed already, so Nelson's thing was going to be outdated, but it actually hasn't been confirmed. He came to Lisbon on Monday.
You arrived Monday night.
I think that
Sunday night.
Monday night, and I think that today he might have undergone the medical, and probably tomorrow, most likely tomorrow, it will be made official by Benfica, which like Nelson said. It's just going to drop Jonathan in a pecking order, and as Cristiano said, he may very well go elsewhere.
Let's hope that
There was some interest.
Let's hope that this Mexican striker works out a little bit better than the last one we had, Kiki Fonseca, who tried to blame it on corruption just a couple weeks ago, by the way.
Well, yeah, if you guys didn't read, he accused at the time the president, saying that the players needed to pay the club money in order to play.
What? That's what Benfica was shit. I don't blame them. They charged them to play because they weren't winning anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's nearly not as important as the Casagrande from Brazil saying that he doped up in Porto when they used to play for Porto, and the club was. But anyway,
whatever.
Turning our attention to Estoril match comes up this Sunday, 8:30 local time. As I've said, Patrick is going to be the lead commentator. If you're watching Benfica TV in English with English commentary, Patrick will be on it.
Is there an actual option? Like an option?
An SAP, you mean?
Yeah. Is there like an actual option?
I don't think there. Because
the only one I have is in Portuguese.
Yeah, I think that if Goal TV plays the game live, Patrick will be on it. I know that Eurosport in Australia is also showing games, Benfica games live. I don't know what the situation is this year. I don't know if they signed Benfica, they extended the contract or not for coverage. But Patrick is the English spoken play-by-play guy on this weekend's game. He comments with two gentlemen that they take turns with Patrick. We'll have the first game of the season, but let me just give you a few facts here about Estoril. Estoril just signed Bruno César, former Benfica player. The last 10 matches between Benfica and Estoril, 6 wins for Benfica and 4 ties. Fabiano Soares is the coach. He comes from last season. Last season he was the coach also. Ref for this game, Tiago Martins. He is an AF Lisbon referee. He has already officiated a game of the Europa League pre-qualifiers, and he was also the official on the Sporting versus Roma game. So I don't take that as however you want, because usually the refs that these guys invite to do their official presentation games are guys that they think, oh, this guy's pretty nice to us. Let's get him. Let's make him some money.
You're the referee here on the panel, so you tell us. You're the expert.
Unfortunately, I didn't get to that level.
They give you biscuits and like cookies and stuff.
Biscuit might be funny and small.
But they don't give you the bananas to the lose. They keep it.
So let's go to Patrick. Obviously, huge game. Considering what has gone on in the preseason, also the Super Cup. Have you gotten any direction? Have you sat down with the club as far as, have they given you any direction as far as the mood, as far as the comments, or is it still a free-for-all?
Not too much. I mean, we discuss things between ourselves last season. At the end of last season, we're still sort of getting to know one another, because I only came in at the middle of March before the Braga game, and that was 5 games before the end of the season. So we'll have a chat before this Sunday's game. I'm actually going back into Stade de Luz tomorrow, because we're doing the first episode of the season of Benfica in 60 minutes, which is shown on BTV in English. So I will have a chat to my colleague Tiago. I've already spoken to my other colleague Carlos, who I went for a beer with the other day. But we try, and there is naturally a Benfica bias, because we are still Benfica TV, although it's BTV these days. But I think you have a duty to call the game as you see it. If the other side score a great goal, it's a great goal. If a Benfica player gets himself stupidly sent off, you call him stupid. You know, you're not going to go out and openly criticize the club. I wouldn't dream of doing that. So you do have to be. It's different. It's different to working for an independent broadcaster. But the good thing about having three of us is that you can have more of a debate on air, which is good as well. So we will talk about how pre-season's gone. We will talk about transfer movement or lack thereof, and yeah, so that will be the general approach to the game. But once the game starts, provided there's a lot of action, it is really a case of just calling the play-by-play for me. The colour will be provided by the other two guys this weekend. But yeah, I try not to give too many strong opinions on the tactics or the players themselves. I think you have to accord a certain intelligence to your audience, and you have to give them the option of seeing things and interpreting things their own way. So your main job as the commentator, particularly when you're doing the play-by-play, as I will this weekend, is to describe the action, is to enhance the action. When you can't say anything good, keep quiet. When you can feel you can add something to it, be it a stat or just a nice turn of phrase, do so. But you know, it's difficult to remember. You have to remind yourself, but you are not the main event. You are there to enhance the product, and the product is Benfica. And if Benfica play well, it makes your job very easy. If it's a dull game and it's a 0-0, which you don't get many at the Estádio da Luz, then you do need to reach a bit more for some statistics, for some stories. That's when it's good. Then there's three of you on air. So I think it's a nice dynamic. It's actually something I'm not used to working with two other colleagues on air at the same time, but it's something I noticed that BT Sport did at the start of their season in the UK, Sky's main rival. So they went with three commentators the other day. I believe it was on Manchester United Tottenham on the opening game of the season. And I saw a bit of a reaction on Twitter. People weren't used to that. So there's a bit of sort of eyebrows raised, but it is a nice dynamic. And the two guys I work with are excellent because they know the club inside out. And that's still where my knowledge falls down somewhat. I do my preparation before every game, and the bulk of my preparation will always focus on the opposition because I'm always covering Benfica and covering them. They get more exposure in the media, and just by virtue of covering that many games, you do get to know them a lot better. So I'll start probably on Thursday or Friday. I'll look through the paper and read up on Estoril, what limited coverage there is of that, and then the real bulk of it will be done on Saturday and Sunday.
Patrick, those that were critical of a three-man booth, obviously I've never watched a Univision game because they have like 8 guys calling the game. You don't know what the hell's going on. It sounds like me on a podcast, just talking over everybody. It's like, what the hell? It's absolutely bonkers. But listen, the good thing is, I know you don't like to be critical. You shouldn't be critical because you're a very, open-minded individual. But the good news is, I will be in Portugal Sunday morning. And bro, I'll stir the pot up. Don't you worry about it. Dude. I'll be out there and you'll bring me on as a guest. The only thing is you might get fired right in the middle of the play-by-play. They might just come and grab me and you by the hand, like walk us out.
That dude might pull him like that like he pulled Vitoria.
Both of us. Like, fora. Fora. But yeah, I mean,
Cristiano, what's your feeling about this game? What do you expect?
Like I said before, it's a game that I think Benfica absolutely has to win. They have the obligation to win. Not only is it at home, but it's your first game of a brand new season. You want the fans to come out. You want to show some campeões, defending champions. You want to put out a good performance because there's nothing to be proud of so far. There's nothing that the fans have been happy about so far in the first 5-6 games of preseason. So if you come out and you throw out a stunker, okay, a clunker, a stinker, a clunker, what's going to happen? The fans are absolutely just going to be like, epa, and I'm just telling you, that's how it is. And you know how the Portuguese people are. Yeah. I'm just calling a spade. So I think if they don't come out and put out a good performance, a lot of people are going to be turned off by it. Now, a critic like myself, just because they come out and they beat Estoril 3-0, I'm not going to come out the next day and proclaim that, Benfica's good. Everything I was just complaining about was just an afterthought. No, absolutely not. They need to do it on a more consistent basis. Let's not forget, guys, Benfica plays Porto 5th round of the season. Yeah. So they can't afford to drop any points. Yeah. I don't care if it looks bad as long as they win. Last year at the beginning of the season, Benfica wasn't exactly looking great. Talisca bailed them out. But, the important thing, like I think, we talked the whole thing about Wenger and Modi. When they win, it masks a lot of holes and everything. So if they put up the 3 points each and every week leading up to Porto, I think we'll be a lot more confident and be a lot more satisfied. But if they come out there and they don't impress, I mean, not just myself. I mean, the papers. I think everybody will have a riot with this.
Yeah, Patrick, you also, if you want, Benfica last year, I think it was the first time maybe in 10 years that they had won their opening game.
It was like 7 to.
So that's a little another tidbit of information if you want to retain that for your research.
Yeah, they had never won an opening game under JJ. It was the first one.
Under JJ, they hadn't won an opening game, and I think even before JJ, they had a miserable opening day record. And last year, they finally got off to a flying start, and then. Steve and I also said here that last year, the way we got started, it was like we knew the train was coming. We just needed to get away as fast as we could, and that's what we did last year. So this year, what we have to look at, we know that both of our competitors are going to be very strong, and we really can't drop dumb and silly points against teams that we should be winning. And I think this Estoril team, even though a lot of these teams in the first game of the season, there's a huge question mark as to what their value, especially Estoril that brings in players like from Brazil, unknown guys. We really don't know how good they are, how good the team is. They kept the same coach, Bruno Cesar. I think he's a good addition to them. But you never know what you're going to get with this team. And also, start of the season, a lot of these guys are raring to go. They haven't gone. It's not mid-season where they've lost a ton of games and they've lost some of the morale. Guys are ready to go, especially against Benfica. They're always ready to go, but they're ready to get the season started. So I'm hoping that that people show up in the stadium. I'm hoping that that Benfica puts out a decent product, something that you could say, okay, I could do with this. I could build up on this.
Well, and the other thing is this, man. I think we mention this every year. A lot of these little teams, a team like Estoril, this is the biggest game of the year for them. It's just either lose, the game that all eyes will be on them. And, like we like to call it, it's these little teams, it's their Super Bowl every time they play Benfica. And in particular, it's either lose. So, they're going to be ramped up to go. They're going to be ready to go. So it's going to be a tough game for Benfica because, again, there's so many question marks leading into this game. Yeah. And Benfica does have the pressure of not having won a game. So it's not going to be an easy walk in the park for them. So even though I do expect them to win this game, they should absolutely win this game. But, it's too many questions right now, man. Yeah. I mean, to me, I don't know. This is just all about the coaching staff for me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Patrick, what's your feeling about the approach that the team needs to have to the start of the season, especially considering the preseason that we've had?
I think the fixtures has been kind. I mean, before the Porto game, Benfica have 3 out of 4 games are actually at home, and they're quite winnable as well. I mean, Estoril, Moreirense, and Belenenses, which might be a little bit tricky, bit of a derby, but they'd be playing in Europa League, so they might be. I watched them actually. I went and saw them the other week against IFK Gothenburg, and good team with Sapinto and the all Portuguese side. But I think, and the one away game they got is Aruca as well. So you're looking on paper, you are looking at 12 points from 12. And it's great to have 3 home games out of 4 to begin with before then going to Porto. So there is a sense that Benfica can start in second gear and work their way up. I think as long as you go into the Porto game with 12 points, you can't really complain. If the performances haven't been there, but you're still getting wins, that's still a good sign, I think. Yeah. In an ideal world, you want to be winning 3-4-0 in all of these games. But I think it needs to be a win on Sunday, and that will settle everything down a bit. And you'll remember that Benfica are champions, not just champions, back-to-back champions.
Yeah.
And I think that's been something that hasn't been enough mentioned about that really.
And Patrick, you mentioned the game against Oroca. Let's not forget the game was moved from their home field to Stadion, whatever. I forget the name of it, in Aveiro, which is a much bigger field. So, which in the end would help out Benfica because it's a bigger pitch in the whole line. So it's a good thing. So just want to point that out.
Yeah. So I think all things considered, I think that has to be the approach.
Yeah.
Pre-season's gone now. Put pre-season behind you. A lot of
Super Cup. Yeah.
A lot of people in other countries, I know Inter Milan have been getting a lot of bad results recently, but they've brought in a lot of players, and the players come out themselves and they say we're training twice a day, we're doing double sessions. It's all about fitness. The games themselves are just to get a bit of a feel of the ball and just to try and put some things into practice. The results themselves are limited. Let's look at it objectively. It's one competitive game so far, which was a narrow loss, at least in terms of the scoreline, 1-0. Suddenly the league is on, needs to be an upbeat approach. There can't be too much negativity around the place, and I don't think there should be, because that will then impact the team's performance.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing you need. It needs to be go out, we are champions, we're going to prove we're champions. Yes, the coach has changed. Yes, Maxi's gone. Yes, Lima's gone, but we still got the main spine of this team. We still have the best goalkeeper in the league, for my money. You've got the captain, who's I think is the best centre back in the league, despite his age, advancing years, and Nico Gaetan, who's the prized possession of Portuguese football. There's quality all over the pitch,
and Jonas,
and Jonas, if played in the right position. So I think these guys need to look at one another and go, hang on a minute, what's going on here? People are starting to doubt us. Let's prove them wrong, because there is doubt. And
absolutely.
And the worst doubt that can come is when it's your own supporters. And there's the doubt, there's uncertainty, which uncertainty breeds doubt. And I think that's what it's been. It's just been, there's been the Benfica fans and the club has lost a few of its reference points, a few of its bearings. And whilst those are missing, then the uncertainty creates a bit of anxiety and doubt. And I think the doubt will be dispelled once the team get out there in the league and people realise that, okay, now the season started. And it's back to business. 3-0, 4-0 over Estoril. And I fully expect Benfica to keep a clean sheet this weekend. And I expect them to score 2 or 3 goals.
It's not a doubt on the player. It's not that people doubt the players that are on the team currently. I think it's just an overall doubt because Porto have strengthened, Sporting have strengthened. Sporting took your guy that made it all work. And we see just this week he made it work for the other team because of his mind games. And so I think that's where the doubt comes from, because you're right. They still do have very good players, but Benfica hasn't added to it when everyone else around them is strengthened. And I think that's where the doubt comes from. And the coaching staff, and I keep going back to Vitoria, hasn't really given you much to be confident about. And you watch them 4 or 5 games, 6 games preseason, now the first official game of the year, and Benfica look like they were out of ideas. I think that's where the doubts come in particular for me. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people, feel the same way I do. And that's to me not good.
Yeah. And if you notice, if you're watching this on YouTube and if you watch the video later, the banner behind us, that's the reason why I put that up. Just so people could be reminded that we're not only champions, we're back-to-back champions. Let's not forget that. So we lost very little to this team. The quality is still there. The players don't stop playing all of a sudden and desaprendem tudo. So, I mean, we're there. We just need to get it together, and I'm confident that Rui Vitoria will do the job. So, Cristiano, you want to throw up an 11?
JC, Semedo, Lisandro, Luizão if he's healthy. I think at this point I'm ready. I think Lisandro's ready to take the next step. Popsicle, Samaris. I have to put Pizzi in there right now because Benfica don't have any other options. Gaetan, Jonas, Mitroglou, or whatever, or any of the other 3 strikers that are there. And then on the right, I don't even know who the hell Benfica play on the right side at this point. I mean, what, Carcella? Who do you play on the right?
Oh, depends if he's healthy or not.
I mean, come on.
I think we put Talisca on the right. Screw it.
Again?
He wasn't on the right. He was in the middle. That's why.
But he's got no right foot at all. But put him on the right. Put Talisca on the right.
Yeah.
I think I'm over this Talisca experiment.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I said this here last week that I'm still unconvinced by Talisca's value because I really haven't seen him play in a position where I said, this is where he belongs. This is where we could get the most of. I just haven't seen that from Talisca yet, and I think that all the hype against them, the call up, and I think that Record as mentioned that ever since he got called up to the national team or the Olympic team or whatever it
was the national team. He went to the national team. Made
ever since he did that, it's been downhill from there. So,
but I think the problem with him is Jonas arrived. because because the guy is an 8. He's not a box to box guy. He's more of a guy that false 9, that 10, a guy that gets the ball, creates on it.
It's like a
And when Jonas arrived, he lost his spot. He really has no position right now. He doesn't give you enough on the wings, and in the middle, he doesn't give you enough. He's more that guy. Get up top. He's got a nice left foot. He's got a nice shot. That's his position. And when you have a guy like Jonas on your squad, you can't just try to force feed him into that position because obviously you're going to sacrifice Jonas to play that guy. No, you have to play Jonas.
Patrick, you wanna have a stab at a lineup?
Yeah, I think I'd go with pretty much the same. I would have Jardel ahead of Lisandro Lopez. I think I'd have to go with Luizão and Jardel if they're both fit. Ola John on the right, I think, is the lesser of two evils, or however many evils, if you will. Pizzi and Samaris all day long for me. Gaetan, Jodas with... I think you've got to go with Jonathan Rodriguez simply on the basis that he's been in the country and at the club longer than Mitroglou, and even if Jimenez signs in the next day, I don't think you can go straight in with someone like that.
Yeah,
I think give Jonathan Rodriguez the first 3 or 4 games of the season, see how he gets on.
Yeah,
I think these guys need a run in the team. They need a run in competitive matches when it matters. Yeah. And he will get chances. That with the quality behind it, he will get chances, especially at home. And base him on his performances there. That's what I would go with. I think the difference to Chris's side would be that Jardel, Ola John on the right, and then we weren't sure who to put up front with Chris. So I agree. We're not sure. Someone with the main thing is someone needs to play with Jonas so he can drop deep and knit the play together. Because that was the big problem on Sunday. There was no link between midfield and attack, and there was no link between defence and midfield. Ironically, despite having 2 shields in front of the back four with Fazer and Samaris, which was bizarre. It's actually quite sort of counterintuitive. So I think it needs to go back to the 4-4-2 or the 4-1-3-2, which is the way they seem to put it out on the Portuguese graphics, which makes it look like a much more attacking lineup than it actually was. But it's basically Samaris slightly deeper than the other 3. But I think that works. At their best, it becomes a 4-2-4 with the 2 wide players getting forward.
I'm not sure Jonathan's going to get the start. It doesn't. I mean, due to the fact that
he
would
be the side I would go with. I'm not sure that he.
Yes.
Will play,
Oh, okay. Okay. The side you would go with. Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. Forget it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Was it to predict?
No.
The
It's just
okay.
me. My mind's always everywhere else. I'm sorry.
No. I think there's definitely some question marks. I think based on what we saw, who came on the other day, I think if he's stubborn, he'll go with 4-2-3-1 again, even though it didn't work. If he reverts to 4-4-2, that's an admission that it might be the best system to go with. And if it is 4-4-2, I think it'll probably be Mitroglou because he came on and played alongside Jonas.
I think that even I see. These are the times that I wish Nelson Oliveira had a little bit of a head on his shoulders, because right now he could be the top guy right now. If the kid has the talent, he just doesn't have the head. And it's a shame because, he's going to end up going to Braga or Belenenses or wherever he goes. And
he should go.
And he's going to have to prove himself there if he finally wants to be taken serious and meet up to the potential that people are expecting from him. He's going to have to. He's
gone to France. He's gone to England, and he hasn't grabbed the opportunity by the horns. I think right now, Benfica, rightfully so, he hasn't shown much. To me, go to Braga, go to Belenenses, give me a full season. Don't give me 15 games. Give me a good 24, plus games, and show me that you could be consistent, that you could put the ball in the back of the net, and then we'll talk about next year. But right now, the guy's been a flop. Yeah, he's got tons of potential, but he has never put it together. No. And every time he's been given a chance, whether it was in France and England, and he just hasn't taken advantage of it.
Yeah. All right. I think that's about it. We're gonna wrap it up. Patrick needs to get to bed.
She come.
Patrick, as always, great having you, man. Just put out your Twitter so people know where I can find you.
Yeah, if you guys aren't following Patrick, and you follow the podcast and you listen to it, you guys are missing out. You guys are just terrible human beings.
Yeah, it's at Patrick Kendrick, but with 1 K in the middle. So at Patrick Kendrick, PatrickKendrick.
Man, you gotta. I'm gonna give you the advice I gave every single listener here, okay, Patrick? This is
Too
free, all
long.
right?
Too long. Here we go.
Too long. You know it.
We know that Patrick listens to the podcast.
Just put Kendrick, play-by-play, PVP. That's it. Kendrick play-by-play. Look, that's for free. Gave you that for free.
Thanks, buddy. I'll buy you a beer and we'll get you some of
can't
those
wait.
beans. What are those
Some
beans called?
caracoles.
Lupini or something? What are
Yeah,
caracoles?
Tremos. We can eat caracoles. Don't worry about it. We can do it all.
Oh, great.
Anyway,
I had
Patrick.
carapalzinhos the other day. Anyway, I'll tell you about that one.
Juquinzinhos.
That's banging.
Those are good. That's what the ones you eat the head and everything.
Oh, you just
That's
eat the
the
whole
one.
thing.
That's the one.
Patrick, we're gonna go out. Patrick, we're gonna go out. I'm gonna put it out on Twitter. I'm gonna put the challenge out on Twitter. If you don't show me a good time, I'm gonna put you on blast on Twitter. Just letting you know.
Right.
I'm gonna let everybody know.
Patrick,
right, you got it.
have a good game on Sunday, man.
Make sure you tune in as well, guys.
Yeah.
If you do get BTV
Absolutely.
in English, stick us on.
BTV and Australia, mates. Check under your tellies. Wait, telly might be in English. Anyway,
look,
Veggie's not here. Anyway, check out Patrick. Don't forget to tweet at Patrick. And Patrick, so far you've given us good luck. So let's hope that that streak continues. At 10CO10, at Benfica Podcast, benficapodcast.com, planetbenfica.co.uk. Thanks everybody for checking us out. The people that were watching us on YouTube and that are going to catch this later on iTunes, so on and so forth. Thanks for everybody's support. And we're hoping that we could get a win this week.
Let's go.
We need the week. We need the
win.
win. I haven't seen a win since last season. You
didn't watch against America, the penalties?
Carrega Benfica.
That's all.
Arriba,
See you, everybody.